Good afternoon. I'd like to call this meeting to order. Want to welcome everyone and thank you for your time. We appreciate you being here with us as we spend our evening handling the matters of our district. With that, Ms. Smith, roll call, please.
The norms. Did you read the norms?
Oh, read the board norms.
I got you. I can totally do that. Before we do roll call, let's start with our board norms and protocol. We agree to respect differences of opinions in making decisions for the district, to follow best practices in managing the superintendent and the management of the board itself, to stay on task when conducting business for the district, including while at board meetings, to never surprise the superintendent or each other when conducting official business of the district, to read these norms at the beginning of each board meeting and at board workshops as a reminder of how to conduct our meetings, to continuously self-check to determine if we are following our norms when conducting district business. Thank you. With that, Ms. Smith.
Yolanda Clark.
Yolanda Clark, present.
Maxine Drew.
Maxine Drew, present.
Janie Humphries.
Janie Humphries, present.
Randy Lopez. Wanda Brownlee Page.
Wanda Brownlee Page, present.
Rachel Russell.
Rachel Russell, present.
Dr. Nguyen. Thank you.
All right. And before we approve today's agenda, I would like to make a motion that we amend the agenda to add an additional executive session under item 10. It would be letter A, and that would shift the last two down.
So moved.
Seconded.
Ms. Smith, roll call.
Yolanda Clark.
Yolanda Clark, yes.
Maxine Drew.
Maxine Drew, yes.
Janie Humphries.
Janie Humphries, yes.
Wanda Brownlee Page.
Wanda Brownlee Page, yes.
Rachel Russell.
Rachel Russell, yes.
Dr. Nguyen. Thank you.
All right.
Andy Lopez, yes.
Oh, Mr. Lopez, I'm sorry. Thank you.
All right. I will now entertain a motion to approve the amended agenda.
So moved.
So moved.
Second.
Ms. Smith.
Yolanda Clark.
Yolanda Clark, yes.
Maxine Drew.
Maxine Drew, yes.
Janie Humphries.
Janie Humphries, yes.
Randy Lopez.
Randy Lopez, yes.
Wanda Brownlee Page.
Wanda Brownlee Page, yes.
Rachel Russell.
Rachel Russell, yes.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you. Looking at our agenda, we have no community comments tonight. Just a reminder that community comments need to be submitted to our board clerk, Ms. Smith, by Monday prior to board meetings at 12 o'clock. That is our deadline. So, thank you. With that, we'll move into communications. Dr. Stokes.
Good evening. I just have a few brief announcements. First, I want to take this opportunity to congratulate our very own Piet Despain for winning the $250,000 grand prize on Fox Next Level Chef. Despain is a graduate of J.C. Harmon High School and one of the many examples of the success stories of KCKPS alumni throughout the country. So congratulations on her winnings. This is just a reminder, or actually information for parents who may have submitted an application for Sumner. The Sumner appeals applications are now available. Appeal dates are from March 7th through March 14th. Applications will close end of day on the 14th, no exceptions. Please do not apply more than once. If you did apply from November through January, you cannot appeal. This is not an application for Sumner. This is the appeal applications for students who have already been sent a denial letter. Lots to celebrate in March in KCKPS. Not only is it Women's History Month, but today is March 8th. 8th is National Women's Day. On National Women's Day website, it reads, "Imagine a gender equal world, a world free of bias, stereotypes, and discrimination, a world that's diverse, equitable, and inclusive, a world where differences are valued and celebrated. Together, we can forge women's equality." In addition to Women's History Month, we're also celebrating Theater in Our Schools Month, Music in Our Schools Month, and National Social Work Month. The KCK Chamber is doing business with KCKPS on March 8th from 11:30 to 1 during a lunch. The KCK Chamber is excited that we had Brian Hernandez, Assistant Director of Purchasing for the Kansas City, Kansas Public Schools, provide education on how to do business with the district, particularly how to bid on contracts and build relationships with key points of contact. We want to thank Brian for doing that today with the KCKPS Chamber. And if you have questions, local businesses about how to do business with us, you can contact Brian or Wayne Carell in our purchasing department. My final announcement is that in case we have to have another inclement weather day or to postpone school for any reasons, seniors will have to make up a few hours. If it occurs, we will work with our principals to make sure that we communicate how those hours will be made up for our seniors. Our other levels are still within the state requirement of 1,116 days. And if we have more than one day, then our high school students would have to make up some time. But we'll be sure to communicate that information out to all of our families as things come up. Thank you.
Thank you. I would also like to add, we also lost one of our very own, Miss Sherry Wash, was with the district for over 20 years, and so she worked as a law enforcement officer. And so I would ask that we give her a moment of silence. Thank you. I know she will be missed. I've seen lots of posts and people really giving her high praise, so thank you for that. Next up, board, any updates?
I know last time I talked about the Middle School Band Festival. At this last week, we had the Middle School Orchestra Festival, where all of our middle school orchestra students, well, most of them, mostly 7th and 8th grade, but some 6th grade, came and played for each other at Washington High School. And there was a beautiful morning hearing our kids play music, and they're so respectful of each other and applauding each other, and encouraging each other, and our teachers and students have done wonderful this year.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Yes. I had the opportunity today to go to Bertram Carruthers Elementary School and sit in on Miss McCauley's class, first grade class, and it's really impressed, and it's nice to see young people excited about teaching. And I just enjoyed the way she interacted with her students, and she was very positive, very creative, and we have really talented young people keep our educational field going. So I was really impressed, and always Miss Molly, the principal, good person, big heart, and we just need more people like that. We also lost Morris Perry, who's a former employee of the district.
Thank you.
Last week. And his mom, who also was a custodian in the district, is in the hospital right now, and just ask that we keep them in our prayers.
Thank you so much, Ms. Page, for pointing that out. We definitely don't want to overlook anyone, so I appreciate that. Anyone else? Okay. Seeing none, we have next up is Ms. Levers with our library update. Is she online? Ms. Levers, are you online? Okay. Are we good to go?
If she's not, then we
Okay.
can go.
All right.
I don't think there was any action to be taken by the board. It was informational, and if you have any questions, you can reach out to reach out to me, and I can pass them on to Ms. Levers, or you can reach out to her directly.
Thank you. All right. Next on our agenda, I would like to entertain a motion to recess to executive session. Okay, that's the right one, I'm sorry. I would entertain a motion to recess to executive session to discuss matters of non-elected personnel in order to protect the privacy interests of the parties involved under Kansas City Open Meetings Act for 10 minutes.
So moved.
I second it.
Thank you.
Yolanda Clark,
Yolanda Clark, yes?
Maxine Drew,
Maxine Drew, yes.
Janie Humphries,
Janie Humphries, yes.
Randy Lopez,
Randy Lopez, yes.
Wanda Brownlee Page,
Wanda Brownlee Page, yes.
Rachel Russell.
Rachel Russell, yes.
Thank you.
entertain a motion to return back to regular session?
So moved.
Second.
I will make a motion to extend the executive session 5 minutes.
First, we have to come back into regular session.
Oh, sorry.
Okay. All right, so motion's on the table that we return to regular session. It's been seconded. All right, so roll call, please, Ms. Smith.
Who seconded the motion? You did, thank you, Ms. Drew. Yolanda Clark,
Yolanda Clark, yes.
Maxine Drew,
Maxine Drew, yes.
Janie Humphries,
Jenny Humphries, yes.
Randy Lopez, Wanda Brownlee Page, Rachel Russell,
Rachel Russell, yes.
Dr. Nguyen. Thank you.
All right.
Now I will make a motion to extend the executive session 5 minutes.
Second. Okay. Roll call, please. So, do I need to read I don't need to read. So extending 5 minutes, going in at 5:26.
Yolanda Clark,
Yolanda Clark, yes.
Maxine Drew,
Maxine Drew, yes.
Janie Humphries,
Jenny Humphries, yes.
Randy Lopez, Wanda Brownlee Page, Rachel Russell,
Rachel Russell, yes.
Dr. Nguyen.
I'd entertain a motion that we return back to regular session.
So move.
Second.
Roll call.
Yolanda Clark,
Yolanda Clark, yes.
Maxine Drew,
Maxine Drew, yes.
Janie Humphries,
Jenny Humphries, yes.
Randy Lopez,
Randy Lopez, yes.
Wanda Brownlee Page,
Wanda Brownlee Page, yes.
Rachel Russell,
Rachel Russell, yes.
Dr. Nguyen.
Nguyen, yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Now I'd entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda.
So move.
I second it.
Ms. Smith?
Yolanda Clark,
Yolanda Clark, yes.
Maxine Drew,
Maxine Drew, yes.
Janie Humphries,
Jenny Humphries, yes.
Randy Lopez,
Randy Lopez, yes.
Wanda Brownlee Page,
Wanda Brownlee Page, yes.
Rachel Russell,
Rachel Russell, yes.
Dr. Nguyen.
Nguyen, yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. And now for our board updates.
The first item for board updates is the social learning update and approval of the International Social Emotional Learning Day. And with that, Ms. Clark will read the resolution for the Social Emotional Learning Day, and then the Student Services team will provide an update.
Okay. Educators, students, and families are being called on to demonstrate empathy and resilience, build relationships, and utilize their collective resolve to strengthen our KCKPS schools and communities. These social and emotional skills offer powerful means to support and educate each other. For students, social emotional learning promotes skills needed to more fully engage in academic learning, whether in person or at a distance. For educators, SEL helps them practice self-care, resilience, and empathy while fostering safe, equitable, and welcoming school communities. On March 11th, 2022, we will come together on International SEL Day to showcase SEL in our community, promote SEL within our schools, and advocate for SEL within our policies. This year, as we continue to face the challenges of a global pandemic, SEL Day 2022 will focus on finding common ground, pursuing common good. Resolution: to promote student well-being and academic engagement during this time of the COVID-19 pandemic and beyond by prioritizing social emotional learning, SEL. Whereas, students cannot learn effectively unless schools are safe and equitable environments where all students feel a sense of belonging. Whereas, students face increasing anxiety as the COVID-19 pandemic continues as a result of social distancing requirements and increasing social isolation, fear of illness for themselves, peer, family, and friends, uncertainty of their future in schools and life, and financial insecurities that may result in hunger or stress at home. Whereas young people with strong social emotional skills are better to cope with challenges, build protective factors for mental wellness, challenges, and resiliency from trauma, engaging academically, and experience long-term social, professional, and academic benefits. Whereas social emotional learning is the process through all young people and adults acquire and apply to knowledge, skills, and attitudes to develop healthy identities, manage emotions, and achieve personal and collective goals, feel and show empathy for others, establish and maintain supportive relationships, and make responsible and caring decisions. Whereas social emotional learning can be effectively integrated into schools and youth-serving organizations through classroom instruction, both in person and virtually, and other school-wide activities. Whereas educators with strong social emotional skills can navigate stressors, foster positive learning environments at a distance or in person, and implement SEL with greater fidelity. Whereas Social emotional skills are both teachable and measurable, and evidence-based SEL programs have already been successfully implemented in schools across the country for students in preschool through high school. Therefore, be it resolved that the USD Board of Education encourages schools to implement social emotional learning within their school communities to conduct ongoing training of staff to ensure SEL implementation is culturally responsive and equitably met to needs of all students.
So moved.
Second.
Yolanda Clark,
Yolanda Clark, yes.
Maxine Drew,
Maxine Drew, yes.
Janie Humphries,
Jenny Humphries, yes.
Randy Lopez,
Randy Lopez, yes. Thank you, Ms. Clark, for reading that.
Wanda Brownlee Page,
Wanda Brownlee Page, yes.
Rachel Russell,
Rachel Russell, yes.
Dr. Nguyen.
Dr. Nguyen, yes.
Thank you.
And then Tracy and I believe Lisa will be joining us online to give the social emotional learning update.
Yes, thank you. Good evening, Madam Vice Chair Clark, Dr. Stubblefield, board members. It is our pleasure to return to you this evening. We had the opportunity to present to you in February from the Department of Student Services regarding the updates that are happening, and thank you for approving the Social Emotional Learning International Resolution Day. So I will lead to my colleague, Tracy Chauvin, our Social Emotional Learning Coordinator, to provide an update to the board this evening.
Thank you all so much. I truly appreciate each of your time. And thank you, Vice President Clark, for reading our Social Emotional Learning Proclamation. We will be celebrating International SEL Day on March 11th. It is a day to showcase all the work happening in our community. It's our second year of participating, and I know many of our schools are actually planning to have activities all week and at home, since we will be out of school and no students will be in session on Friday the 11th. And many of the schools have also talked and spoken with me about how they actually will be promoting adult SEL on that time that they have with their staff. So I'm extremely excited about this, and thank you again for recognizing the importance of social emotional learning in building a resilient KCKPS community and the efforts that all of our staff, families, and students contribute to promoting the social emotional wellness of our community. I'll be walking you through just a few. This is a small snippet, and I'm so privileged to be able to share so much of it with you, but this is a small snippet of the work being done to support the social emotional wellness of our KCKPS community. Social emotional learning, when it's part of a high quality education for all students, supports many priorities and goals, including many of our priorities and goals. Our board priorities, our strategic plan theme 1, KISA, our accreditation program, and we specifically have social emotional growth goals. We have 5 of them actually. 2 of them around exclusionary practices. So one is to decrease OSS by 25% and ISS by 10%, to increase overall attendance to 95%, to decrease chronic absenteeism by 10%, and to increase ratings on our culture and climate surveys by 20%. And these are condensed Cliff Notes version of longer SMART goals that are in our KISA report, which you guys will have soon, as it's due to the state soon. Also within that, social emotional learning inherently supports kindergarten readiness, high school graduation outcome areas, as well as our relationship goals. Our Department of Student Services has 3 high priority areas, one of them being the social emotional learning area. Our goal as a department is to support the district with increasing pro-social factors and prevention, increasing protective factors to reduce risk factors, incorporating the social emotional character development standards into all work happening in the district, and also create a social emotional learning guaranteed viable curriculum, or GVC. We want to empower all our staff to utilize a prevention framework or approach with training, tools, and resources. So I'm going to give a high-level overview of how we've been doing that since I had some time with you this time last year, actually. Starting with, what is SEL? Thank you to Vice President Clark for actually saying it so eloquently. SEL is the process through which all young people and adults acquire and apply the knowledge, skills, and attitudes to develop healthy identities, manage emotions, and achieve personal and collective goals, feel and show empathy for others, establish and maintain supportive relationships, and make responsible and caring decisions. This definition actually comes from the Collaborative for Academic Social Emotional Learning, and it was recently updated in December of 2020. What I like to do whenever we talk about social emotional learning is to show this comprehensive definition and just have a moment to reflect on the word or phrase that really resonates with you from the definition, and think about how, as a board member, as a community member, how do you support that word or phrase in your work with and for the KCKPS community? Typically, I would have people share out, but this time we'll just keep going and have that as sort of a thought, not a talk reflection moment. How does social emotional learning really take focus or become a part of our instructional focus for this school year? It is all part of MTSS, that multi-tiered system of supports. And this visual was shared with you in the spring of 2020 by our director of MTSS as we started implementing that multi-tiered systems of support framework. This framework provides a clear, coherent, and consistent student focus that ensures alignment across the entire district. It supports the system with focusing on a limited number of priorities while setting up evaluation measures to help eliminate initiatives and programs that aren't positively impacting student achievement. We're establishing consistent behavioral and social emotional supports that support the whole child and assist the whole child, which is part of that strategic plan. This entire year, and since I've come here, our focus has been on all. And as such, we have worked hard to put foundational structures in place around social emotional learning here in KCKPS. So going a little bit deeper about what that has looked like as we put these foundational structures into place. In our schools, our staff have made social emotional learning a part of the culture through the use of that MTSS framework. During the summer of 2021, we developed a comprehensive family advocacy plan that occurred, which was made possible by you guys actually approving the purchase of additional Second Step kits. So now our early childhood through 8th grade all use Second Step in the classroom led by the classroom teacher. This new FA plan ensured that our Tier 1 explicit SEL instruction was occurring from classroom teachers, allowing our school counselors to then provide layers of Tier 1 support through their counseling lessons as well. We also introduced new curricular resources through 9 through 12, which is the first time we've adopted such resources for our high schools. We're using Overcoming Obstacles and Mindful Momentum. And so the goal being that this dedicated FA time weekly allows for building bonds and community while skill building through explicit teaching and modeling of skills using evidence-based curriculums. And I have to give a shout out to Gloria Willis for being a huge advocate for and champion for SEL within their school community. They have our highest rate of usage of Second Step in our middle schools. So thank you to Gloria Willis. We also purchased, in addition to that, we purchased the bullying prevention units from Second Step, which are for grades K through 5, and every building has access to one full kit. And the thought was that our school counselors could use those during October, which is Bullying Prevention Month. Again, layering prevention using explicit teaching and evidence-based curricular resources. I also mentioned that one of our priorities in student services was to update the guaranteed and viable curriculums to create a culture where SEL isn't an event. It's just not Second Step or Mindful Momentum. Instead, it's the culture. It's what we do all the time here in KCKPS. So we've been leveraging GVCs this year to uplift the social emotional character development standards given to us by KSDE. And that visual is over on the right hand side of this PowerPoint. So you can see that they focus on 3 areas: character development, personal development, and social development. And so some great work that has been happening is with the middle school math cadre. In partnership with the secondary mathematics C&I coach, Kurt, a group of invested middle school math teachers and instructional coaches explored the social emotional character development standards, aligning them to the standards of math practice. You wouldn't think that these things go together, but they go together so naturally. And from there, that group created I can statements for each unit that incorporate those social emotional character development standards and skills that are targeted, as well as the math content to show that these things go hand in hand together and it's not one or the other. Next, in the winter of 21-22, another dedicated group of teachers initiated the same process using for the elementary science GDC. They again explored these standards, the SECD standards, and then created accompanying I can statements. And then following that, our elementary teachers will be given the opportunity to explore these standards actually tomorrow, which I'm super excited about. So there's more, you guys. We've been doing so much around MTSS this year. I'm so excited. I hope that's shining through. We've also purchased and gotten Tier 2 and Tier 3 resources. So when we think of that MTSS structure, we've been talking about Tier 1. What can we do universally for all? Next, we also need some resources that are there for our Tier 2 and Tier 3 students, the ones that we know might need some layers in addition to what's being provided universally to all. We did some exploratory sessions last school year to determine whether or not to buy the Edgenuity Purpose Prep Content Suite, which specifically focuses on our middle school and high schools. They have roughly 60 different lessons focusing on everything from resilience to restorative practices to substance use, vaping. And the goal is that we would have this as a really solid, evidence-based curricular resource for Tier 2 and Tier 3 resources for our middle schools and high schools. All of our I'll get to that one in a second. I got ahead of myself, sorry guys. We also were given access to our social workers, our building social workers, which thank you guys for shouting out that it is School Social Work Month. Specifically, this week is School Social Work Week. So shout out to all our school social workers here in KCK. All of them were given access to the interrelated resource library that is located down on the first floor of central office. It's an inner resource library that we can have access to that allow us to provide more SEL interventions, EC through 12 for Tier 2 and Tier 3 students that might need that extra SEL support. So those are the foundational structures we put in place around curricular resources in MTSS and SEL this year. Moving into data, what are we now going to be looking at to progress monitor to see what's going on and if these tools that we've now put into place this year as our foundational structures, are they working? What's going on here? So for that, this school year and last school year were really a year of development around data. The aim being a data literate culture to move us from a proactive prevention system, as is our department priority, from that reactionary system we have been. So what measures do we use? A lot of the data, because there's a whole lot, you guys, will be given to you in that KISA accreditation report. It's been disaggregated down by both the Department of DEI as well as Student Services, so you will get hard data when you get that KISA report. But I will be giving you some that is not in that KISA report tonight so that you can see that we're using so many data points around SEL. We use a lot. The Kansas Community That Cares survey. Last year, we did not have enough participation to have a report, which was really disappointing, as that's the first year in quite a few that we have not been able to have that participation. But we had some barriers to implementation with us being in a virtual learning environment, a remote learning environment. And we also had some issues around gathering permission, which I'm really excited and proud to say that of eligible students, we had almost 70% take the KCTC this year. So I'm extremely excited about that. That should be roughly 46% of our 6th, 8th, 10th, and 12th grade students, which is the highest participation we've ever had in our history. We also have discipline data, attendance data that we're tracking and monitoring for KISA specifically. We also have our federal programs perception surveys for culture and climate. Again, we're tracking specific questions around that from all participants for KISA. We have our SABRS data, which is new this year, and our director of MTSS has more in-depth information on that. We have second step usage reports for grades 6 through 8, as that's a digital learning platform. And our KEC through 5 is not the digital learning platform, so we don't have the same data for that. I have to, again, give a huge shout out to Gloria Willis for their participation. Right now, we have roughly 40 of our 200 FA teachers on target according to that updated FA pacing calendar. So our goal is to continue to build the capacity there. Our goal is to continue to ensure that our students have equitable access to this really important teaching and learning and time, that robust time with their teachers, their FA advocates, to build those relationships so that they have those proactive prevention factors in place. We also have added SEL goals to the school improvement plans at the building level. And the last number I was given, thank you to our federal programs director, was 41 of our 48 schools have an SEL-related school improvement goal, which is huge for us. That is another tracking and monitoring that we can be doing at the building level to ensure that we're really personalizing it to the communities, and also putting prevention in place around specific areas that our buildings are seeing need support. We've got all this data. How are we looking at it? How are we ensuring that all of our buildings, because we've got such a huge, diverse community, we've got so many schools, how are we ensuring that we're looking at it through the same lens? We have 2 new tools this year. Over the course of the 2021 school year, tools to support the implementation of MTSS in regards to SEL were developed by myself in collaboration with input from members of the leadership and learning team, including our director of C&I, who was awesome about giving feedback on this. These tools, the KCKPS Adapted Atlas Protocol and the Early Warning Indicator, provide school teams with the ability to critically analyze all the data through an equity lens to ensure that all students are being provided the high-quality instruction across all tiers of instruction necessary for them to be successful. So that's a really long way of saying we gave them evidence-based tools to look at data to ensure that none of our students are falling through the cracks, that we are ensuring that our students know that we're here to support them around all of these different data points, be it attendance, be it discipline, be it their SABRS data, that we're looking at all of our data in a timely manner using the same system so that our students have equitable access and we're there supporting them as well. And that leads to our professional development we've been doing, because we've got all this stuff. We've got the new updates to FA, we've got curricular resources, we've got new data tools, we've got some updated GVCs. So how do we go about telling people about this, and how do we go about teaching them how to use it so that they feel confident and capable and comfortable using all of these things? We've really been focusing on professional development this year, and our Director of Professional Workforce Development has come up with a calendar that allowed us to have some dedicated time to these different professional developments. We had our Trauma Sensitive Resilient Schools Initiative. You heard from our coordinator of that last month, and I just wanted to reiterate that this is a partnership that we continually support each other and build upon everything together. And our big focus this year was on DCIP Wednesdays, the District Continuous Improvement Plan Wednesdays. It is a collaborative effort between our DEI department, Trauma Sensitive, and SEL, in addition to Diploma Plus. It's the first Wednesday of each month, and our goal as a department was to provide relevant and engaging professional development personalized to what our staff said they needed. And so that has been our big focus this year. We also provided the Edgenuity Purpose Prep PD in September, because we couldn't just give a tool without showing how to use the tool. That was to all of our secondary social workers, counselors, ISS monitors, and STS monitors. And that training was actually provided by Edgenuity themselves. It was recorded so that they could also go back and access it later for refreshers and reminders. Our MTSS data days. These are big ones. In the fall and winter of 2021, building leaders and instructional coaches were provided training from curriculum instruction, myself, and our A to A team, specifically our program specialist, Naomi, who has done an amazing job. We did these PDs in conjunction with MTSS, Matt, and he has also done a great job in coordinating all this. On how to access all of these data, y'all are going to hear another shout out, so I'm sorry if you get tired of it, but TIS is amazing. Our TIS department is amazing. They created new data and attendance reports for us in Infinite Campus and Tableau to make it easier for our buildings and our district leaders to access all of this data. That is another huge accomplishment we had this year. So we provided training on how to access using all these new reports. So again, thank you, TIS. How to read all of these things, because sometimes it's difficult to read, and then how to analyze that data using that Atlas protocol or using that early warning indicator. From there, our building principals were tasked with taking this back to their building and using it. And so those are those building MTSS PD days that are listed out. Those are the days that buildings went back and looked at their FastBridge data. They looked at discipline or attendance data, and they used our Atlas protocol to critically analyze so that they could see, here are students or groups of students that need support. Here are ways that we can really target what we're doing, our initiatives, our instructional strategies to ensure that we're supporting all students. We also did, Kurt Parker and I did some really amazing middle school math and SEL PDs on the dates listed. Our next one is coming up in April. But we did this concurrently with the small groups who were working on the GVC that was previously mentioned. All of the middle school math teachers were provided professional development on tools, tips, tricks to create lesson plans that uplift those social emotional character development standards, those SEL skills that were inherent, and then also on how to reinforce Tier 1 SEL based on the lessons that are provided during that updated FA system. If we are looking for specific data on who attended all these trainings, please let me know, because I would need to work with professional workforce development to get that, because that would be lots of buildings, lots of people, lots of participation. But I know that we also want to look at that as who's been trained on all of these things. If we have time, I really just want to uplift and highlight the amazing work all of our staff does. I have a quick video, and I hope you guys enjoy it as much as I enjoyed getting to hear about these experiences and seeing these experiences.
Fast, because I'm even listening this time.
So I just wanted to highlight the use of circles that is happening, our prevention from our counselors, the meetings that our social workers are doing, running classroom circles. And that video just gives us a little insight into what's happening every day in our schools. I also want to do some KCTC celebrations. Molly from the Kansas Assistant Network set it up so that we could really recognize a few of our buildings and their participation on the KCTC this year. And so we were able to recognize both Schlegel and Gloria Willis with a $500 gift card for their high rate of participation. And then we also were able to recognize, I know I see the claps, yes, I'm so excited too. We were also able to recognize the FLC. The Fairfax Learning Community Center was able to participate for the first time this year. And so they also received a $200 gift card to celebrate that they had such a great turnout on the first year that they were eligible to participate on the KCTC survey. We get such great, rich data from hearing our students' voices because they feel comfortable sharing with us through the KCTC survey. So I want to say a big shout out to these 3 buildings and thank them, their students and their staff, for all their hard work. And those are our SEL updates since the last time I've seen you a year ago.
Any questions for Tracy?
I don't have any questions. I just like to say that I really appreciate her giving us all of this information. There seems to be a very good check and balance system that is in place. It lays the groundwork to be able to teach, to listen, and to learn, not only for the students, but for the staff. And it just covers everything that we need to know as a board. And again, I'd just like to say thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Drew. I think,
Yeah,
Ms. Page.
thank you for the report, but my concern is still on the data end. You tell us what we're going to use to measure, and I know it keeps saying the KCKPS report. When will we get that? When will we see actual numbers? And will there be a comparison? I know it wasn't a full year for 2020, 2021, but whatever time there was there, you would think there would be some data, something. And then for the 2021-22 school year, whatever data we can get, because I hate to see us use these things and then we don't measure. We want to get our bang for our buck. We need to know, and we need to have numbers, because parents keep asking, how are they doing? What's going on? And we don't have anything tangible that we can say. You're telling me what you're using, but I'd actually like to see some numbers, some data, so that I can share with people and let them know we all have work to do. And to say what you're using, and then we don't get the numbers, it makes me worry.
Yeah, we will have all of that for you. The KCKPS report is actually being finalized right now. It's one of the things we are working on, that I'm specifically working on. And the DEI department worked hand in hand with myself to do the discipline and attendance and the KCTC survey data and the family perception survey data, getting that all into one rich report. I will defer to, honestly, Lisa Walker and Matt Anderson on when you guys will have it, but it will have those year-by-year comparisons as well, specific to the 5 goals that we do that we're monitoring around. So that was a really good point. It's broken down by a lot of different factors, and then also year-to-year comparisons. So you will have that. The date, I defer to another on that.
Okay, because it would be nice to know when. You know, we keep hearing we are, but we haven't heard when.
The MTSS data, academic and behavior data, is scheduled for, I think, the 2nd April board meeting. It may be the 1st. And then the KCKPS report is either, and I can pull it up and tell you, but they both are coming in April and early May on the schedule of board reports that are due.
And then the school improvement plans, is that not mandatory? It's not mandatory that they do that.
Every school has a school improvement plan, and that's a part of their KCKPS process and their accreditation. So all of that, any school principal, if you visited them, they can all pull up their school improvement plan and share with you what's in there. And that all informs all of the information for KCKPS.
Ms. Ms. Russell, I think you had your hand up as well.
Yeah, and I was just gonna add on to that real quick, that the school improvement plans, it's my known experience that they are all on the school-specific websites. And so if I go to my children's, I can access that as well as the parent involvement plan or what have you, just for reference. I also just wanted to send my thank yous. I love shout outs, and so I will shout out Carruthers Elementary, who I visited a few weeks ago. And it was really cool and interesting to walk into the building. I got there early in the morning at arrival time, and all of the classrooms there every morning. Please forgive me if that was an exaggeration, but I believe she said every morning. They are spending 10 to 15 minutes, and I had the opportunity to walk into one class, and they were talking about their weekend as a part of this process, and taking in the emotions that they had experienced over the weekend, whether it was excitement or upset. And so I thought that was a really good display, and walked into a couple of classrooms and saw that same thing. So I knew it was a cultural thing in that building to be doing that every morning. So thank you, Carruthers, for the work that you are doing in that field. I did have a question about the KESA report. Thanks for answering that when we would see that. But Tracy, I also wondered if you could share with us the raw data around usage information on the Second Step program. I heard you shout out Gloria Willis, but I also think, like, what is the expectation being set, and is that expectation not the same of all of the schools in the district, and some are doing better than others? I'm trying not to read too much into that, but I also, in the same respect, will say making sure we're getting our money's worth in that, and making sure our kids are getting. Nope, go ahead, sorry.
You want me to answer that one?
I'll
then
stop
move
my
to the next
run-on
one?
sentence, yep.
Okay, so currently our EC through 5 use physical kits that we don't have the ability to track usage. Our 6 through 8 use the digital license, which is considerably more expensive, and to your point of cost. But we are able to digitally track the lesson when they start a lesson and when they mark it complete, meaning they've watched all the videos and all of that. And currently, we utilize our FA pacing calendar, and of our 200 approximate FA teachers across the district, which does include Sumner's 8th grade, we have roughly 40 on track, meaning that they have, as of January 31st, completed, based on snow days and all of that, between seven or more lessons, because that's what we would expect them to be around, with snow days and days off. And then we have a comparable amount right at 40 also that are between that sort of 4 to 6 lessons, where some other things that are very building specific might have happened, but they're still really on target. They've been teaching the lessons consistently, but that's only 80 of our approximate 200 FA teachers who teach 6th through 8th grade FA. And so that is a point that we are working on, is that consistency and integrity with implementing this Tier 1 curricular resource.
Gotcha. So I just want to recap real quick to make sure I understand. So you said EC through 5 is physical, and so there will be no data points for tracking the usage of that.
We're trying to figure that out, to be honest. That was something we're working on, and I have not yet found a solution that is feasible and viable for all those teachers.
Totally understandable. I get that. 6 through 8, there's a tracking mechanism, which is what you were talking about, Gloria Willis is using. And then that number that you threw out, 40 through 46 earlier in your presentation, that's the number of FA teachers from 9th through 12th that are utilizing the program?
6 through 8.
6
And
and that's only completing
grade,
4
yeah,
of.
and so we have 40 teachers across the district who are within the range that we would expect them to be on if they're doing it according to the FA pacing calendar, and roughly the same who are within an expected range as well of that sort of 4 to 6 lessons, because as of January 31st, they should have been around 8 lessons, but we know that snow days happened on a couple of those days, and some other days happened, and some other events within their specific school community. And the second step platform actually tracks that for us, which is a plus of that. And we can download an Excel spreadsheet building by building and send that to the building principals, which is what I did a month ago, roughly 3 weeks ago, so that they'll start having that now that we have this ability to use that tool. It will be similar to what they do with other online programs like that, where they'll get quarterly usage reports to be able, and then time on those DCIP Wednesdays to reflect on what's been going well, celebrate successes, and let's problem solve and brainstorm any solutions to barriers or who might need some extra support in our school community with implementing.
Appreciate you. Thank you for that update.
Great questions, thank you.
And I can give you the exact dates for the reports. The MTSS and academic data will be on April 12th. Our KISA OVT visit is April 20th, so the report to the board, what feedback we'll receive is May 10th. Let me verify our visit. Yes, our visit is Wednesday, April 20th, and then we'll report to the board with the preliminary feedback that we receive on May 10th.
Thank you. Looks like next with no action is the mask policy, COVID mask policy.
Yes, so Ms. Lewis will provide an update, given the new information from the CDC.
Good afternoon, Board President Lopez, Vice President Clark, board members, and Dr. Stubblefield. Our current masking policy is that everyone wears a mask, whether you're in any of our buildings, if you're in a cubicle that is not able to be separated more than 6 feet, even if you're vaccinated or unvaccinated. Now, the CDC has come up with guidance that rates our community level. This guidance is based on three things: hospital beds in use, hospital admissions, and the total number of new cases in the area. They also look at vaccination status. Currently in Wyandotte County, 62% of individuals have received their first dose, 51% have received their second dose, and 36% have received 3 doses, which is now considered fully vaccinated if it's been more than 5 months since their second dose. They're broken down into 3 categories: low, which is you can wear a mask based on your personal preference; medium, you really need to talk to your healthcare provider if you fall in the medium category to let them guide you on if masking is or is not appropriate; or if we're in a high category, you're going to wear a mask indoors in public, you're going to stay up to date on your COVID vaccines, you're going to get tested if you have symptoms, and you're going to take additional precautions if necessary. So we all know that Wyandotte, our community level currently is high. Based on that, it is my recommendation for the board to continue the masking policy and keep it in effect, for staff and students to stay home if you're sick, and to make sure that even visitors wear a mask. Any questions?
I'm just going to add one clarification. Ms. Lewis, if you show that last, so currently the board has, our policy has to follow the guidance of KDHE, CDC, and the unified government. And if, with that, unless the board decided to do something different, if Wyandotte County ever got to yellow or green, that means that masking would be optional. Right now, it's at the high level, the medium or low level, if we're following the new guidance, and that would be a change. If it happened, we would be certain to send communication out, but I just want us to be clear on that, because that would be a change from our current masking policy of everyone wearing a mask.
And as of today, KDHE has not released any new guidance, so I'm in contact with the health department daily to make sure that if guidance comes out, that we keep you all up to date as expeditiously as possible.
All right. Thank you.
Ms. Lewis, well, I'm sorry, Ms. Clark. This is Randy. I have a quick question for Ms. Lewis, and I apologize. Do we know how often the CDC will update that map within Wyandotte County to show if we're in high, medium, or low? Is that updated daily, weekly?
It looks like it's updated weekly.
Okay, thank you. And then just to follow up on what Dr. Stubblefield was just mentioning, so if the board only meets twice a month, right? So if in between board meetings that goes from red to or high to medium or high to low, does just clarification, does that allow Dr. Stubblefield and leadership to make that change or recommendation if we wanted to change our masking policy based on guidance from CDC, Health Department, and KDH&E, or does that have to be brought back to the board if we wanted to change the universal masking policy?
Is that a question for you?
If it's a question for me, the way I understand the policy is currently written, because you're following CDC and guidance from the Health Department and KDHE, if their guidance changes such that masking would not be required based upon their numbers or their calculation of the numbers, then your policy would automatically adjust without board action. So if the board wants to change that so that it's not, consistent with what it would require some board action for a change, you would have to do that. But right now, as I understand it, you're following the guidance, and so if the guidance changes based upon the numbers, then that would implicate your policy.
Oh, perfect. Thank you, Mr. Goving. That's exactly actually what I was trying to figure out. So I appreciate that response. So I guess I would just and thank you, Ms. Lewis, for the information. I think it's important for us. I know we've heard from some of our staff and students and community members about our masking policy, and as a board, and as a district, I just want to make sure that we're continuing to monitor what's going on in our community and just making sure that we're making the best decisions for all students and staff, whatever that may look like, as we're seeing districts around us and communities around us start going away from universal masking. What does that conversation look like for us as we take in new information on masking and what's best for our students and staff?
Thank you, Mr. Lopez. Ms. Page?
No, I just wanted to thank Ms. Lewis. I really didn't like the way the media presented it this morning on the news. It made it seem like it was just you making this big decision. And you're working for us, and you're doing the best that you can to make sure that we keep our staff, our students, our parents, everyone safe. And I think that's critical. And I wish whenever we put out today that we give them information, that we're not, we would love to be without the mask. But when you look at our numbers compared to other areas, it's much worse. We'll stand in line for a test, but being vaccinated is a whole different beast. And I get that because we all have rights. But I think we need to make sure we give out the information to support why we're going that way. And this is why we're making that decision. And we're not trying to make anybody's life hard. We're trying to keep everybody safe. And if we want to have teachers to be here, we got to keep them safe too. So I just think we need to give out a little bit more information, because they really didn't give out as much. It just said, we're the only ones in this area doing this. So we need to explain and provide some data to support that.
Yeah, and Ms. Page, I will add that our recommendation is to follow CDC, KDHE, and the others' guidelines, and Wyandotte County is still at the high level, which is saying that we should still have on masks. And so that's why I think it's important for us to follow those guidelines, because then it's not put on anyone's individual shoulders or opinions. It's based off what the guidance is saying.
No, I was just saying, but
No,
they
that's why I
never
was just
said
adding.
that. It was like, Ms. Lewis will be reporting on that this evening. And in fairness to her, you've done a remarkable job. We just want to make sure we get the information out.
And, parents can look at cdc.gov by county to look at what our community level is. If they Google CDC masking guidelines, it will bring you to a page that lets you check community levels. And they can put the state in, and then they'll drop down and put the county in, and it will show you as quick as this what our level is. So it's real time. So if any parents want to go onto the cdc.gov website and look at the masking guidelines for themselves, that is where I get that information from, and that is what I talk with the other community leaders to get that information. It also has the vaccination rates and everything, so all of this data can be fact-checked through that, through the Wyandotte COVID-19 hub for the vaccine data, but the community levels at the CDC level.
So I just want to make sure that we all as a board understand that if on March 12th, the CDC says we are now at medium, that means that we will automatically go to no mask in our buildings. It will become optional. So I want to propose that this board have some say-so in whether or not we are comfortable with that. I know because tomorrow, when the kids come back from spring break, we could have 0 mask in our building, depending on the uptick in the levels. And so I trust Dr. Stubblefield and her following the guidance, but I also want to be clear that everyone understands that is what I'm understanding this to be the process in which would happen. So I'd be open to any other board members' feedback before I attempt to make a motion that we amend our current policy for it to come before the board before we reduce any mask in our buildings.
Thanks, Ms. Russell. Actually, that's actually what I was trying to figure out too, just to make sure. I appreciate you just for clarification, and that I think that was where I was trying to go with my question, is just to make sure, based on the current policy, the way it was put in place, and from what I understand from what Mr. Goheen mentioned, I think I understand exactly what you just said. I think is my understanding, and yeah, I'll stop there. I think, yeah. Thank you.
I want to clarify, we're following the recommendations. However, according to our current policy, I want to understand, does our staff not have say-so on what we mandate and what we don't mandate, because I've always heard recommendation, not necessarily that's what we will do.
The way I understand the policy is currently written, and I don't have it actually in front of me, but this is my recollection, is that it is written that we will follow the recommendations of those bodies that deal with communicable diseases, CDC, the State Department of Health, and the Unified Government Department of Health.
Okay.
And so their recommendation right now is, if we're in the high level, that everybody wear masks in the building. So we are doing that, following that recommendation. If we drop down to the low level, recommendation from those bodies is no longer that everybody wear a mask. If we're at the low level, it's a different recommendation. So automatically, we would follow that recommendation without coming back to the board. It would still be up to administration to make that call, but it wouldn't come back to the board. And that's why I said, if you're wanting it to come back to the board, if you're wanting something different, then that is something you would want to change in the policy.
Okay.
And it's not just low, it's low or medium. You do not have to wear.
Whatever the guidance.
Well, I just
yeah.
want.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, medium is it tells you if you're at high risk for severe illness to talk to your healthcare provider, stay up to date, get tested. Medium is that in-between area that you really want to stress the importance that, hey, we're not out of the woods yet, so that's optional. Low, I think you give them an option, because there are gonna be some individuals that don't wanna come out of mask, period. And we have to be able to give them that option, that if they don't wanna come out, because we don't know everyone's health status. I'm at a different level that I get to see protected health information. But, so we will have some employees and some students that don't feel comfortable, even at the low level, coming out of mask.
It just wouldn't be required. And that's, frankly, that's probably going to continue till the end of time at this point, is that if somebody's got a health condition where they need to wear a mask, that would be an accommodation, they'd be
Right.
allowed to do that.
And those are things we can't control,
Yes,
right?
exactly.
Can we just leave it the way it is and wait and see? I mean, if it changes, we can make the adjustment. Personally, I don't think it will. Just from the way people around here get tested and the way they do things. It's just my personal opinion. I'm not an expert, but I think we should leave it the way it is and deal with it.
So, Ms. Page, if you're saying leave it the way it is, regardless if we are in low.
No, I'm just saying, right now, her recommendation is this. And then when we come back after spring break, when we meet, whatever, if there's an adjustment, or if you need to make the adjustment before, I don't think you need a recommendation.
So I just want clarity. So if we come back from spring break, as Ms. Russell stated, and we're in low or medium, it means that mask would be optional. And while it sounds like it's my choice, I'm just saying, if that's what the CDC and the other governing bodies suggest, that's what I would follow, because that's not my lane. So I will not be making a personal call outside of what they're recommending. What Ms. Russell is saying, is the board comfortable knowing that wherever they're saying, that's where we'll be? That's what I would communicate to our staff and families, because me making a decision, I don't have additional information that they have, so I would not feel comfortable making a decision outside of what their recommendations are.
Any other feedback or thoughts from the board?
Greg,
Humphries?
Mr. Goheen, this also means that if we drop down into low and we go maskless or optional, if it goes back up into high, you automatically reinstitute masks without having to wait for board.
That's correct.
That's right, okay.
So is there any other, it sounds like what we're going to leave things where they are is what I'm hearing, and we will accept this as an update tonight? Okay. All right. Our next agenda item does require board action. Are you okay with me moving forward, Dr.
Yes.
Stubblefield? Okay. And so I would entertain a motion that the Kansas City, Kansas Board of Education approve the contractual agreement not to exceed $35,000 with Beckman Consulting LLC.
So moved.
Second?
Any comments, questions? Ms. Smith?
Yolanda Clark,
Yolanda Clark, yes?
Maxine Drew,
Maxine Drew, yes.
Janie Humphries,
Janie Humphries, yes.
Randy Lopez,
Randy Lopez, yes.
Wanda Brownlee Page,
Wanda Brownlee Page, no.
Rachel Russell,
Rachel Russell, no.
Dr. Nguyen.
Dr. Nguyen, no.
Motion passes. Next up is our new business. Dr. Stubblefield?
This is a reminder with the new business items. You received the information. The individuals that have submitted them are here to answer any questions. No action to be taken tonight, but if they need to gather additional information before we bring it back for approval at the next meeting. The first one is the early childhood resource adoption, and the current core resources are outdated and do not align with structured literacy, and so the early childhood department and our curriculum department is recommending that in the future the board would approve this new resource, and they're here to answer any questions.
No questions?
If there are no questions, we'll go to item B. This one is the purchase of book vending machines for elementary and middle schools. Again, this is informational. This was brought forth, I believe, by a few buildings that had seen success with this program in other schools, and so they're wanting to add this to some of our schools because it will provide additional access for students to earn tokens to be able to have books. It does not mean that they do not have access to books otherwise, but it was a motivating component to it.
Submitted several questions, and one of them is if students don't meet the threshold that we determine that they are worthy of tokens, and we're telling them they're not worthy to have books in their home, be given a book free. Some kids are going to earn lots of tokens because they're compliant or they're well-behaved, and other students aren't. So one group of kids may have 10 free books, another group of kids may get 2, or some of our troubled children may get none. To me, that's not equitable. Several years ago, we used title funding to buy many books to send home with our children for the summer. I know it was at least 3rd through 5th, it may have been 2nd grade. I don't know if you remember, Ms. Levers, exactly how far down we went with the books in the grade level. But every child in the school, every child in that grade level in our district received 5 to 6 books to take home. And every book that a kid keeps or takes home impacts not just them, it impacts their siblings, their children, their family, their parents. Spend $156,000 just for the machines when we could buy probably over 20,000 books to give to each of our children in grades, EC through 8 or whatever we come up with. Every kid gets a book, not just the ones that earn tokens. It said in the one response that kids get trinkets, snacks, special occasion things. I think every child has the right to be given a book to take home and keep, not just the ones that follow the rules that each school sets down, things like that. It's like we're punishing them because they are a marginal child. And those are the kids that need books in their home the most. So that's my feeling on spending that much money on machines. If you came and said, we want to spend this $156,000 to buy books, if each child 1 or 2 books, believe me, I would be going, yes, yes. Because I'm an avid supporter of reading for children for many reasons. I wanted to share my opinion.
Thank you.
Ms. Humphries. Ms. Russell?
I just have a couple of questions around Title I funding. Is Title I funding, or is this expense, has it got stakeholder feedback? I want to make sure that I'm not making a decision based off of personal preference and understanding of also feeling as though this seems like something that counts against students and doesn't necessarily support. It was said that this doesn't discount the books that students have access to in libraries or book bags, but if it's my understanding, those are also used books. These books that would be in this machine are new books that haven't been in 15 other people's hands. And so I guess I'm just wondering, are parents and teachers invested in this? Or is it just building administrators who have said they would be willing to utilize their general or Title I funds without input from other stakeholders?
Ms. Russell, this is Lisa Walker, and I can share a little bit of information, and then I'll turn it over to 2 of our principals who are here to participate. This request was brought from some of the library media specialists who work closely with students, and they went through their principles, and then it was advanced to Ms. Carol Levers. She brought it then to the district leadership team as something of interest from the buildings. And since we did happen to have some carryover money this year, we did have the funding to do this if we needed to. So the instructional improvement officers convened all of the elementary and middle school principals and gave them an opportunity to participate if they felt like that was something that supported their goals and objectives. And so I will turn it over to Dr. Heather Calvert first, who's from Grant Elementary, and then Ms. Eliana Farney, who's from Central Middle School, who can maybe speak more closely to the question you have about stakeholder involvement.
Thank you, Lisa. Good evening, board. Heather Calvert here, proud principal of Grant Elementary. So everything Lisa said is accurate. It's actually interesting at Grant because we had, our student council had come up with the idea of a book vending machine more towards the beginning of the year before this idea was presented. So it actually came from our students at Grant that they had seen pictures of book vending machines and they really wanted to have one in our building as well. We also took this to the leadership team, which does have parent representation at Grant on the team, and the parents were very excited about it. The teachers are very excited to incorporate this into our practices that we're currently already doing and just using it as another option. At Grant, all students are earning, we have Mustang money for our RISE expectations, and all students earn RISE money. We don't have any student who is left out of that. Even students who struggle with trauma and behavior have tons of Mustang money because we look harder at those kids and where we can reward them at any chance. And so they are all able to earn Mustang money. They all earn loads of it and spend it and are full in on those rewards.
Any other questions? Dr. Nguyen?
Thank you, Ms. Clark. I have 3 questions that center around what I don't understand as kind of a complete proposal. So I need help understanding the big picture. One, this is just the cost of the machine. So what's the cost of the books? There was a reference to 900 books for each machine. The second question is, what is the cost of maintenance of the machines? It said that the maintenance would come out of Title I funds. Well, that's great, but what's the cost? And then, number 3, how are you going to evaluate success? And let's say after 4 years you choose not to continue this, how do you discard the machines? So those are 3 questions that I didn't understand if they were addressed, and in my mind would say, because there are gaps, this is not a complete proposal. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. I don't know if anyone's prepared for those questions tonight or.
I noted them, and either we'll bring them, get the information or provide an update to
Okay.
the board. Yeah.
Thank you.
I have one more question.
Humphries?
Since they're not going to just be using the book vending machines for the rewards, why can I not add books to the store or wherever they have that they can pick the trinkets and things out? Since they're already having that, you can buy a lot of books for $156,000.
Thank you, Ms. Humphries. I know Dr. Stubblefield has taken some notes.
I have them.
All right.
There are no more questions on that one. The next informational item is to open up for bids for the wide area network, WAN, fiber optic services. This is, and Mr. Carell and his team are here to answer any questions, but this is just notifying the public that we'll be opening up bids for the wide area network fiber optic services. Any questions regarding that?
Ms. Clark?
Yes.
My question was, is there a match to these, for this installation of hardware? Or the bid just covered the whole cost? When you say E-rate, so to get E-rate, can you explain that to me and
Yeah.
some others?
Mr.
maybe
Carell
listening?
and Rashid are here. They're coming up. Mr. Holder.
Can you repeat your question, Dr. Wynn?
What is E-rate and how does that?
So E-rate is a program that is funded through the tax on the cell phone bills that are small. Is through FCC. And E-rate on that refunds us based on our free and reduced count. So basically 85% on this. So we only pay 15% of the WAN and internet portion. It's been that way since 2004, I believe, or maybe even earlier.
I'm sorry, what did you just say? We pay 15, they pay 85, what did you say? I'm sorry.
Yeah, they pay, E-rate reimburses for 85% of the
Okay,
cost.
So what is the bid for the 100%?
Yeah, but the bid is for 100% of the total cost and not counting the E-rate.
Okay, so help me understand how so you solicit the bid, you get X amount, then how do you get the 85% reimbursement or what?
Right, we apply to E-rate.
We apply for E-rate every year, and next year we'll get the district pays the full 100% upfront, and then we get the reimbursement from E-rate.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions? Okay.
The next one that is being opened up for bids is for the internet access service. Similar to what just was shared, I believe E-rate is involved in that as well.
It's exactly the same process.
The next item is open solicitation for asbestos abatement at Bethel Elementary, and that will be opening up for bids as well.
Any questions?
Any questions?
Dr. Nguyen?
Thank you, Ms. Clark. What's your ballpark figure estimate that you're looking at?
I don't want to disclose it before we get the bids. Doug, we never disclose the budget before we
Okay.
solicit bids.
Okay, thank you.
The next one is opening up for bids for summer painting projects.
Any questions there? I think you're good.
Item G, opening up for bids for the copier fleet lease.
No questions?
Last item for opening up for bids is window replacement project at Whittier Elementary and North Central Office Early Childhood Center.
We're good.
The next item is for informational, that will be asking for approval next time, is the purchase of the Oz Robotic Artificial Intelligence UVC and spray disinfection robot for Bishop Ward High School. This is just a reminder for everyone that all private schools in our attendance area are allocated a portion of our title funds as well as other funds. And so there's certain ESSER funds and those things. So there's a certain portion that we purchase items for them based off of the federal guidelines.
Any questions, Dr. Nguyen?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Do we have this machine here?
Wayne, do we have this machine?
No, we haven't purchased it yet. We're asking for permission to purchase.
No, do we have it for
No,
USD
we
500?
don't have it in the district.
We don't have it for the district.
Have we considered it for USD 500?
No, that wouldn't be anything that I would make make a request for. It would
Doug
have to
is-
come from a department.
Yeah. Is Doug on? Wouldn't that be?
Doug was on.
Yeah. Doug may be able to
I saw him pop
answer
up
that.
here.
Doug, have
I
we?
am.
Okay, go ahead.
No, I'm here, and I'm sorry, the question is, and I
The question,
don't know.
It's a sanitizing robot, Doug.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sorry, I'm not involved with it. I don't have an answer for you on that.
Well, I guess the big question is, how is, not how, I mean, they just asked for it. So what's the logic with Bishop Ward? I can read why it's important, but is it something that we too never consider purchasing? Sanitation is sanitation is sanitation.
Doug, have we considered purchasing these for our USD 500? Have we explored it, or do we have a like product?
I'd have to say no. No, I am not familiar with this product.
So it's something we can explore and determine if it's something that we may need. Any other questions?
I guess my last question is, if our people haven't explored it, how do you know if it's a good, fair price?
So while it's passed through us, I don't think we get to tell Bishop Ward how to use.
Oh, so
dollars.
whatever they ask because of this provision,
Yeah.
it's a pass-through, so.
It's a pass-through. There's a certain amount of title dollars and ESSER dollars, so we don't necessarily get to tell them how to allocate the percentage that they.
No, I didn't say we tell them how to allocate. We don't even evaluate. It's just strictly a pass-through.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And the last item for information that will be asked to be for approval is the purchase of artist services for the painting of the murals at FL Sligo High School. And once the sketches are created, they will be presented to the board.
There's a little bit more to that.
Okay, go
The
ahead.
artist, Mr. J.T. Daniels, is here to answer any questions. Apparently, there's a voting process. A voting process, a process he goes through and vetting it with the students on what they want put on the walls. You want to come up and maybe answer any questions? I also have Mika Gentry from Schlegel High School. Oh, okay, I'm sorry. Not used to being up in front of this. So there's a process that he goes through to come up with what the drawings, with what the mural's going to be. And there's a 3-step process that you go through, is that correct?
Yeah, so typically I get a chance to meet with students either via Zoom or in person, depending on the pandemic. And I go through an interview process where I ask them about their school, so things that are related to like their school life, school day, school chants, do they have specific colors, anything to do with school life that I'm 36 years old, so I haven't been in high school for quite a while. Anything that's very pertinent or important to them. And it's kind of like a capsule for them. So I take that and then I create a narrative that's interwoven with what they've given me, and then I ship that back to them and say, hey, do I have approval now? And then with the approval process is usually like one major change, like, hey, we don't like the design whatsoever, can we redo this? And then I go back and work on it. And then I try to work more closely with them and say, hey, you've told me you like the color blue and silver and white because your school colors. You also want like the stallion, which is your logo, but I want to hear about like who's your favorite teacher? What was a cool event that happened last year? Do you remember this specific sporting event? Or was there something special that happened to you within the last 4 years? And how can we include that in this narration so that you care about this and you like this and you're happy for this? And then the person after you is going to read this and look at this and make sure it's important. And so the 2 minor revisions are for each individual piece. So we're asking to make 4 to 5 installation pieces, and then they'll be custom designed to those aspects. They'll go through that design process. They'll tell me what they want to have done. They'll get reviewed, and then once they get reviewed and everyone's okay with that, there's a finalization step where I get it signed off. And then once it's signed off, I go off and make the final piece, and then we come out and install that in the school. And then typically you paint the mural on the wall, but what we're proposing to do is I'm going to design them on the computer, have them print out, and then laser cut out of wood pieces so that they have custom designed edges. And they're pretty large scale. and then they'll be hung to the wall with a metal cleat so that they're easy to remove in sections. So you can have a person like me remove it by himself, or 1 to 2 high school students help you pull them off the wall so you can repair the wall, paint the wall, or remove it completely and install it on a different wall if you feel like doing that. They'll be made out of wood, so they're more durable to canvas. If someone knocks into it, cuts it, whatever, what have you. And then I also use like a UV coating and then an anti-graffiti coating. So if they want to put marks on it, it's easily washable. But then after like 7 or 8 years or 10 years, you could remove it and then reapply it, and it's cheaper than buying new artwork.
Thank you. Any questions, Ms. Russell?
I just want to say I'm a huge fan, maybe a groupie. I love your work at the Merck. That's my youth voice talking. But I thought it may also be helpful if you share where some of your most other recent projects are. I think you did one inside of a KCKPS school, just so if board members want to get on Facebook or the internet, they can see where your other work, or maybe a drive around town, see where your other work is.
You might drive for a while because we're kind of spread out. A little bit about me. So I'm from Wyandotte originally. I've lived in Kansas City, Missouri for the last 5 years or so. But my parents live a couple blocks up the street off of 63rd and Parallel. Graduated from Wyandotte High School. My sisters went to Schlegel, so that's kind of where the interconnection comes from. As far as the mural work goes, been painting murals professionally for about 8.5 years, and I've done it full time for 3 years now. The most recent murals, like I submitted within the bid and the estimate examples of projects that I've done that are collaborative projects with either not-for-profit organizations or with like school boards or other big client brands. So probably the most recent one was the Merck Co-op, which is located directly across from the Jack Reader Center, just built. But with that one, we collaborated twice. Once with the overall community. They got a chance to come out and talk to me for 4 hours about whatever ideas they have for the mural, the outside of it. And then we did an online poll where I had students from Sumner High School and then one of the other middle schools close to that. They took a blank image of the wall, and we gave them ideas of what the store is about and what the story for the store should be. And then they put their own doodles and designs and so on and so forth, submitted it via Google Drive. And then I took those submissions and I kind of scoured through those to either find like really, really great illustrations or nods in the right direction, or usually if 4 or 5 kids kind of said something very similar, I made sure to highlight that, pull that out, and then put that into the mural. So when I comprise the whole mural, it's got aspects that can be circled and highlighted and say, hey, like the sun at the top of the picture, 7 different kids mentioned a sun at the top of that. And then someone else mentioned clouds and like rolling plains. So we included that. The color scheme was taken from the kids, and then the logos for the school. Had someone submit like an image of a woman with a bushel of apples and then holding a bird. So we replaced the bird with a baby, put the bushel of apples next to him, and then I put another character holding like the metal arc in their hand, and so on and so forth. Other projects that I've done recently like that would be School Smart KC. So we painted a mural that says "I love teachers," and that was conducted over 2 or 3 Zoom calls with the available students. They told me about their favorite educators, favorite experiences, and then like hot topics in the classroom, like what teachers pushed them the hardest. So one of the main characters in the mural is a blue character, is a coach, and on the front of the shirt it says "grit," and he has sleeveless arms, and he's holding like a tablet to write whatever. And that's a representation of one of the teachers they suggested that should be put in there, because one of his acronyms was always grit in the classroom as far as pushing things forward. One that I recently finished was for the Mattie Rhodes Cultural Center, or Cultural Arts Center, which is brand new, and I just finished that at the end of February. And that was sponsored by PNC Bank, and that includes youth from pre-K up through early age high school. And then another project that I'm going to work on, or I'm completing this summer, later this summer, is for the Build KCI project. So I was one of the 19 artists selected for the new airport terminal to have permanent artwork installed for that.
Very nice.
So I could talk more.
Thank you.
That's a lot.
I think they got the point, but I appreciate you sharing all of that, because I think that's important to know that you're not, I don't think you had to prove your credibility, but I hope that other board members will take a look at some of the amazing work that you have done and know that it truly is a representation of what the community.
Yeah, I'm excited. I'm always
is,
looking
so.
forward to projects on Wyandotte. So outside of the Merck Co-op, I painted one mural that got taken over by like eminent domain, and they painted over the wall. There was another one that I painted on the back. I thought it was an abandoned building. It wasn't. Got the cops reported on me like twice and had to come out and prove that it wasn't. And yeah, I've got my next big project. I'm going to go to Ohio and paint another school mural, Lima, because I went to college in Columbus, Ohio. So I'd like to really add this to my portfolio.
Thank you.
Very nice. Thank you for that update.
Thank you.
Any other comments or questions from board members? Okay, thank you. All right, so next up are our board reports.
Yep. The only board report we have this evening is from Jacqueline Rodriguez, Director of ESOL and Migrant Programs, and she's just going to provide an update on that department.
Good evening, Board, Madam Vice President, Dr. Stubblefield. It's with great pleasure that I get to stand up with you and talk about the great work that we have in the Department of ESOL and Migrant Programs. As they're getting the PowerPoint up, I will just share with all of you where the department aligns with those board priorities. We're aligned with those high expectations for student achievement, high-performing workforce, positive community relationships and partnerships, and safe and respectful school environment. Let's see. As we dive into kind of the work of the department, we have worked over the last 2 years with the Department of Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion to revamp a lot of the vocabulary that we've used in our mission and vision, as well as other documentation that we have, so that we can ensure that we're putting the most equitable language out to talk about our students and the work that we do, because we do serve the most diverse population across the district. And then our 3 priorities for the department are instructional practices, family engagement, and compliance. And again, just like our students are super diverse, so is the department and the work that we do. Our department is comprised of 2 different branches. So we have our instructional side, and then we have the side that supports that family piece and component. So this year, we're able to bring in a compliance coordinator as a new position to the district, and that's really just to ensure that we stay aligned to the changing expectations of the state and federal government, and ensure that we have some further checks and balances across the district as we're working to support the number of students that we have in the department. We also have 8 ESL instructional coaches that support early childhood through 12th grade. We have our data technician and data specialist, and their role really is to ensure that we have accuracy in reporting, that our numbers are on track, and that any of those reports related to academics or things that we have to submit to the state and federal government are turned in a timely manner. And then on the other side, outside of the instructional, a lot of the language support that you see across the district, whether it goes on the website, supporting any of the events that we have, such as the COVID events, that's supported by the ESOL family advocates and our bilingual community outreach workers. We're privileged in the district to note that we support Spanish, Swahili, Karen, Nepali, Kinyarwanda, and Burmese just within the department, so that we're able to really focus on removing those barriers. And then we have our ESL family advocates that not only support removing those barriers when it comes to language, but also provide some programming. Due to COVID, we've had to really minimize the type of programming that we've had and have managed as much as possible virtually, but we're looking towards planning for bringing more events in person and supporting at those school events. And then we have the last little section of our department, which is the migrant programs. And our migrant program serves our families that are in migratory type of work, such as agricultural food processing. This year, we've included an ID&R specialist as a recommendation from the state. They are expecting all migrant programs to now do their own recruiting. We have our data specialist and then 5 migrant advocates. We service 8,794 students in ESL services, meaning that is the number of students that are second language learners, but that doesn't mean those are the only students, because we will celebrate the 715 students that scored proficient on the 2020-2021 CALPA. We do not have scores for this year. We're still in our testing window, but we're hoping to celebrate a larger number of students that are scoring proficient and exiting ESL services. This year, we have 193 students receiving migrant services. The migrant program not only services the student, but it's a wraparound service for the family. Since adding the ID&R position, we've been able to recruit 32 families. Previous to that, we would have to work with our state recruiter to come in, and they were sectioned off through different parts of the state of Kansas, and now we're able to make those recruitments much quicker. The more families that we have, the more students that we have, the increased funding that we get to provide more services. We have 74 teachers, 51 aides that support early childhood through 12th grade. And then most of our teachers, with the exception of a couple of new ones that are now getting trained through SIOP, have been trained with the SIOP Sheltered Instruction Observation Protocol, simply meaning best strategies for all students with a high focus on our English language learners, things like visuals, hand gestures. You'll notice I still have that language teacher in myself where I speak with a lot of hand gestures as I'm talking. So those are the types of things that we would expect to see. We offered a summer institute. We had 50 participants. We have 8 schools that have either completed or are on their way to completing SIOP training, and all of our principals, instructional coaches have had the opportunity to also participate. That we'll be offering 2 large summer institutes for the SIOP just to continue our training. And then this year we've been able to incorporate an English language development course. Previous to that, we offered an English language 1 and an English language 2, but we found after auditing and looking at what is offered across the state that we weren't quite meeting that goal of keeping our kids on track. So we've condensed that, and the team is currently working on a cadre to ensure that they're really robust content that's heavily focused on language acquisition. Again, our migrant services provides events for our families. Last week, we were able to host families have a literacy night. While we can't do those in person to the scale that we used to, we have found a way to invite our parents in to pick up books, STEM kits, and different activities for early childhood all the way up to 12th grade, and then provide our parents with further supports and literature on how they can support the academics at home. We have our translation services that I've already had an opportunity to highlight, and then this year we've had the adoption of the LEP policy. So in the upcoming weeks and months, we will be providing more training to principals and then outlining some pieces that you'll start to see in buildings, like some signage and other ways to remove those barriers where it's not going to take such a tax on the human capital, but also allow parents to have a voice in the type of supports that they're getting in schools. And then our very exciting information is all of the things that are happening starting now and into the summer. So we're in year 5 with our KU Step Up grant. Part of that grant is the Saturday Family Language Academy. We have offered it over the last 2 years virtually. We're moving to in-person and excited to have a small cohort of families participating in language acquisition. And this will continue on into summer. Like I shared before, we're continuing our SIOP training. We'll be providing 2 opportunities over the summer. We're going to increase our training with other focuses of supporting language learners, as well as that language support, things on how do I use an interpreter in an IEP meeting, and just to name one of the topics that has been brought to us as a need for the district. And then we'll also be learning a lot more about the syllabi literacy. The syllabi literacy is an opportunity for our students who are multilingual learners to graduate with a stamp from the state of Kansas showing that they've been able to excel proficiently in more than one language. We do currently offer the syllabi literacy, but not holistically across the district. So that's the plan in place to next year have a larger number of students graduating with the syllabi literacy. During the summer, we'll also be having a dual language program, and the focus of our program is on language acquisition, not English, but Spanish. So we'll have a 80-20 model. 80% of content will be provided in Spanish, 20% will be provided on English. The goal is to ensure that kids are getting exposure to the academics, but really our measure is language acquisition. During this time of summer, how much language can students progress and gain through those 4 domains: reading, writing, speaking, and listening? And then also extending them with a learning opportunity into the summer, and so into the academic school year, connecting them with our Family Language Academy where they can have some one-on-one tutoring and small group work so that we can follow them over the course of the summer into the year, which we hope will bring us really great results so that we can later come to you with a proposal for a dual language program in the upcoming years. What questions may I answer?
Thank you. Any questions from the board? Ms. Drew?
For your summer school pilot program, where are you going to be hosting that?
Sure. We're going to do kind of a school within a school model. So we will be focusing on the Harmon cluster. New Stanley and Silver City will be the students that we'll pull from. So it will be hosted at Silver City. And it will be a very small cohort. We want to do quality over quantity just to ensure that we're able to get the results that we're really looking for, and knowing that it's going to take a lot of teacher training as well as student stamina.
Thank you. Any other questions?
In the KISA report, will we get an update on their data as well? And what they're doing? Because in the questions I asked, it's more or less related to summer school. So I didn't know the KISA report would include some of the stuff that they're doing in that data report back.
Yeah, we'll have some components in the KISA report. Some of the SIOP training is in there, as well as just our overall CALPA scores. So hopefully that will address those. But if there's other things that you would like data on, I'm happy to provide that.
Again, I mean no disrespect, and that's with all of them. I just want to know, how can we tell what they're doing? We got to be able to tell people how they did this year. True, they didn't have a full year the previous year.
Sure.
But for that short time while they were in, what worked, what didn't work, we saw growth here, we didn't see here. But now that we've been in a full year, we've done this, we've done that, and give some numbers, because it helps to tell our story.
Yeah.
Sure.
So I was going to say, when we do the academic and discipline data, we do disaggregate it by subgroups. So from there, you would see it, but as Jackie stated in the KISA, there's information, but anytime we provide the academic data, we will provide it disaggregated by the different subgroups.
Any other questions? Thank you, Ms. Rodriguez. Appreciate your. All right. Dr. Stubblefield, did you want to release your staff? We're getting ready to.
Yes.
Okay.
So we will move into executive sessions. Staff is free to go with the exception of Mr. Turan, who will be joining us in the first
In the first session. All right, so I'm sure board members could use a 5-minute break. So with that, I would entertain a motion to recess to executive session for consultation with attorney on matters which would be deemed privileged in attorney-client relationship under Kansas Open Act meeting for 10 minutes, starting at 7:15. Are we okay with that? All right.
with Dr. Turan.
With including Dr. Turan. Thank you. All right. Ms. Smith?
What was the time? I'm sorry.
7:15?
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
So moved.
Thank you.
Second.
Thank you. Ms. Smith?
Yolanda Clark,
Yolanda Clark, yes.
Maxine Drew,
Maxine Drew, yes.
Janie Humphries,
Jenny Humphries, yes.
Randy Lopez, Wanda Brownlee Page,
Wanda Brownlee Page, yes.
Rachel Russell,
Rachel Russell, yes.
Dr. Nguyen.
Dr. Nguyen, yes.
Thank you.
All right. So I'd entertain a motion to come back into session.
So moved.
Second.
Ms. Smith?
Yolanda Clark,
Yolanda Clark, yes.
Maxine Drew,
Maxine Drew, yes.
Janie Humphries, Randy Lopez, Wanda Brownlee Page, Rachel Russell,
Rachel Russell, yes.
Dr. Nguyen.
Nguyen, yes.
Thank you.
All right, I entertain a motion that we recess to executive session to discuss matters of non-elected personnel in order to protect the privacy interests of the parties involved under Kansas City Open Meetings Act for 25 minutes.
So moved.
Second.
And I should, starting at 7:29.
Yolanda Clark,
Yolanda Clark, yes.
Maxine Drew,
Maxine Drew, yes.
Janie Humphries, Randy Lopez, Wanda Brownlee Page, Rachel Russell,
Rachel Russell, yes.
Dr. Nguyen.
Dr. Nguyen, yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, you already know it.
All right, I'll entertain a motion that we come back into session.
So move.
Second.
Thank you. Ms. Smith?
Yolanda Clark,
Yolanda Clark, yes.
Maxine Drew,
Maxine Drew, yes.
Janie Humphries,
Janie Humphries, yes.
Randy Lopez, Wanda Brownlee Page, Rachel Russell,
Rachel Russell, yes.
Dr. Nguyen. Thank you.
Thank you. We need to extend for another 15 minutes, so I'll entertain a motion that we go back into executive session for another 15 minutes.
So moved.
Second, sorry.
Ms. Smith?
Yolanda Clark,
Yolanda Clark, yes.
Maxine Drew,
Maxine Drew, yes.
Janie Humphries,
Janie Humphries, yes.
Randy Lopez, Wanda Brownlee Page, Rachel Russell,
Rachel Russell, yes.
Dr. Nguyen.
I'll entertain a motion that we come back into session.
Yeah, moved. Thank you.
Second.
Ms. Smith?
Yolanda Clark,
Yolanda Clark, yes.
Maxine Drew, Janie Humphries,
Janie Humphries, yes.
Randy Lopez, Wanda Brownlee Page,
Brownlee Page, yes.
Rachel Russell,
Rachel Russell, yes.
Dr. Nguyen.
All right, thank you. Now I'll entertain a motion that we return to executive session, that we recess to executive session for consultation with attorney on matters which would be deemed privileged in the attorney-client relationship under the Kansas Open Meeting Act for 10 minutes,
Moved.
Second.
starting at 8:15. Ms. Smith?
Yolanda Clark,
Yolanda Clark, yes.
Maxine Drew, Janie Humphries,
Janie Humphries, yes.
Randy Lopez, Wanda Brownlee Page,
Wanda Brownlee Page, yes.
Rachel Russell,
Rachel Russell, yes.
Dr. Nguyen. Thank you.
I'd entertain a motion to come back into session.
So moved.
Seconded.
Ms. Smith?
Yolanda Clark,
Yolanda Clark, yes.
Maxine Drew,
Maxine Drew, yes.
Janie Humphries,
Janie Humphries, yes.
Randy Lopez, Wanda Brownlee Page,
Wanda Brownlee Page, yes.
Rachel Russell,
Rachel Russell, yes.
Dr. Nguyen.
Yes.
Thank you.
All right, so Board, I just want to draw your attention to our upcoming agenda items that are listed here. If you have any questions or thoughts, please make sure you get those over to Dr. Stubblefield, and she'll work with you on those. I also want to give a special thanks to our communication. When staff is released, you always hang out with us longer, so we appreciate you being here. And with that, if there's nothing else, we are adjourned.